Welcome, Drink with James, episode 77. We're a little less chic right now. Last week we had Jamie Beck from Ann Street Studio on the show. If you haven't watched that one, I would just hit pause, go to our channel, click on that one, watch that, and then come back here. It was one of my personal favorites that we've ever done, not only because Jamie's a dear friend of mine who I don't get to see enough, but I just think she spoke so eloquently about what she does. And I think, we focus so much on money and how to grow and how to, work with brands and negotiate, and all that stuff is super important. But it's nice to hear someone just talk about their art and why they do it and the things that inspire them. And I think a lot of us, a lot of you guys, not me, a lot of y'all got into this because you are creative and you're looking for an outlet for that. And it's important to remember that. And I think that episode does a really good job of reminding you maybe why you got in this, and the fact that you felt like a brand paid you $200 less than maybe you could have gotten for a last collaboration. That is important, and I'm not saying that's not something you should worry about. But it's nice to step back and say, holy shit, brands are paying me to do creative, interesting things, and I have this cool life, and I have a following of people who are interested in the things that I create, or the things that I say, or the things that I wear, or the way that I live my life. And that's really special, and I think something that we could all do well to step back and appreciate a bit more. So if you haven't watched that episode, go do it. It's Thanksgiving week. I'm going down to Richmond to see my mom, who, if you watch this show, I'm sure you know about Sharon Nord. She's a big fan. Hello, Mom. She's very excited about me coming down to see her. And I'm going to, I think, what is probably my first ever college football game. So I've been mood boarding. What is my look going to be? It's Virginia Tech. Orange is not really my color. I already have kind of reddish skin, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to wear. Very important for me. But I'll let you know. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see. I'll make sure to post about it. So, but certainly my first tailgating experience. I think I went to one college football game when I was in high school, but this is going to be my first one as an adult. So I'm super excited. I'm sure you guys are excited for me to experience that. Let's roll. Okay. I'd love for you to expand on not earning money before you reach 50,000 followers. That is maybe distilling my theory down a little bit too much. I'm not saying you shouldn't make money before 50,000 followers. I'm saying it shouldn't be your main focus. Okay, your focus should be on growth. If you can make money along the way, you definitely should. That's amazing. But you should be looking for more opportunities. You should be looking to grow your account. You should be looking to do other things other than making money. Because if you can get it to 50, as we said, that is when you can start to make real serious income. I'm not saying if you're at 48,000 followers to be no, I'm not focusing on money at all. But it is a philosophical thing of when you sit down at the beginning of the week and say, what do I want to focus on this week? And you're at 15,000 followers. It shouldn't be, how can I negotiate better with brands? How can I reach out to more brands to get paid? Maybe reach out to more brands to work with them so that you can get reposted on their accounts. But your focus shouldn't be money too early. Because, look, I think that as accounts get heavily commercialized, they become less interesting in some ways. And if your content is 50% sponsored, I just don't know how interesting that account is. And so if your focus is money, that means that you're going to be pulling in brands into that account really early. And if you don't have a huge following, you might be pulling in brands that aren't super interesting, or your followers won't be interested in hearing about, and it just does you a disservice. So again, I think it is less a tactical thing of don't make money, and it's more of a philosophical thing of focus on growth and quality and learning, and then when you get over 50, you can start to think a little bit more about making money. I think if you're at 25K, I think if you have more than 10% sponsored content, that's too much. I just don't think you have a big enough following or to be hitting them with that kind of messaging. I mean, that's the other thing. It's we can talk about philosophically you thinking about it and what you should be focused on, but it's also these people don't even know you that well. You know, you're just starting out. You're just getting your point of view and your vibe down. You start fucking hitting them with a bunch of advertising. They're going to be like, I don't even know why I follow this person. Like, it's all hashtag sponsored. I think under 25K, I would do less than 10%. Less than 10% sponsored. There are caveats there. I think that beauty influencers, because of the way that people purchase beauty products, can do more product-focused work because that's why people are following you. But if you're a lifestyle or fashion influencer, yeah, less than 10%. And I'd say if you get big, above 50, above 100, I still think it should be less than 25%.
Why is that?
I just think, look, most posts, if you look at your impressions and you know, or your reach and impressions versus your followers, you're getting, you know, 15 to 25% of people are seeing your posts. That means that, you know, on average, if I follow you, I'm going to see 25% of your posts. If you do 50% sponsored content, there's a pretty good chance that most of what I see is going to be sponsored. And it's just, at some point you have to put your arms up and say enough is enough. Like, that's just too much shit. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. And just because a brand is paying you doesn't mean you should accept the deal. There are tens of thousands of influencers out there. There's a lot of brands out there. There is enough work to go around for everyone. And I think in general, people are doing too much. But that's just me. You know, I mean, I don't know that the normal consumer feels that. I follow so many influencers because of the work that we do here that I'm seeing it. But the ones that I find myself engaging with more have a lot, you know, do a lot less sponsored content. A great example I bring up all the time is a guy named Patrick. Huge account. He could have every fucking post he does be sponsored. He's 8%. His speed is 8% sponsored. Look at other big menswear people. Sometimes they're at 45, 50%. And at some point you have to ask, like, do I believe you anymore? You know, and just because somebody has this is a whole nother thing, we're just going on a rant here, but just because somebody has a following doesn't mean they have the ability to influence those people. I follow a lot of people that I may like their photos or, you know, I think their life is interesting, but I don't fucking listen to what they say when they tell me to buy something. And so you have to be thinking about that as well. It's like, it's not just about can I build a following, but does this following listen to me? Am I having a conversation with them, or are they talking? Are you talking at them? Are you just saying, look at my life, look how great it is. Here you go, here's some new boots. Like, that's not fucking interesting. Are you having a conversation with them? Are you pulling them in? Are you talking about why this brand is really great? You know, I mean, you guys have seen me wear this Stetson recently, right? If you follow me on Instagram, you see that like a lot of my posts have mentioned it, Insta stories, all that. I'm excited about Stetson. I like them as a brand. I think what they do is really interesting. I love that they're a New York City brand. I love that they invented the fucking cowboy hat. You know, like, I really like this brand, and so I'm integrating it into my life. I'm talking about it because I'm excited about it. And I have friends now that are like interested in buying hats, you know, and they're interested in maybe grabbing a Stetson. Stetson also slid into my DMs asking if they could post one of the photos, which finally happened. But it comes from a place of actually being excited about things. And again, it's different for me because this is not my job, but you have to think, do you have the ability to get people to listen to you and to change their purchasing or habits or their habits in general? And if you don't, then you're not an influencer. Then you're just someone with a following. And those are two different things. An influencer means you have to fucking be able to influence people. And so, like, again, that is what you should be thinking about. Am I doing enough? Am I bridging the gap between me and my followers enough? Am I talking with them? Am I answering their questions? Am I giving them actionable, real advice? Am I providing value every day to a level where when I suggest something, they will listen? If you can get there, if you can get to a place where when you say something, people listen, and if they don't purchase, they think about it, they store it away back in their mind, so when they do go get ready to purchase, they think about it. If you can get there, that is hugely valuable. If you can't get there, brands are eventually going to find out. And they'll work with you a couple times and be like, didn't do anything, next. So maybe that's what you should be focused on, you know? It's not even growth, but it's like, if you have 1,000 followers, but you can get those 1,000 people to do whatever if you can get those 1,000 people to listen to you, that's hugely valuable, you know? And so, again, there's so much focus on numbers and probably not enough about like, what am I actually trying to do here? And if you can't answer that question firmly and say like, yes, I do believe that I'm changing people's perspectives and I'm influencing their decision making, then you're probably in the wrong game. It's really interesting though, like I was talking to someone about the Stetson thing, and it's like thinking about how you change, like how this stuff works. Like, because that's a very clear example of how I was influenced, right? Like Dylan bought one maybe 2 years ago. I've seen him and like, he looks great in it. You know, he wears it in a way that doesn't feel like a costume. I didn't even know that like open road hat that's not as much of a cowboy hat existed. And then like when I would see him and he would bring it on vacation, I'd wear it a little bit. And then I started following Stetson on Instagram and I was like, oh wow, they like legitimately do cool things. Like their blog is great. You know, I mean, you've seen their content, it's amazing. And then I went on that trip to Mexico, I wore the hat and started to be like, oh, I actually kind of like this. And then like bought it. You know, but like it took quite some time. And I respect Dylan and I think he's got great style. So when he does something, I do kind of like pay attention because, you know, I mean, I like Luke, he wears a Stetson. I like Mitch, you know, he wears Stetsons, but like, I don't look to those guys for style advice. Like, I don't think that like, I like them. I think they have good style, but I don't listen to them. I follow them, but I don't listen to them. Which is interesting of like, how, okay, so like, how can you build that? Of like when you do something that's a little different, people are like, I'll take a look at that. Let me have a think. Could I wear a cowboy hat? I don't know, you know? It's interesting. Anytime you can like, when you have these questions and you can put that back on yourself and say like, okay, like how would I react here? We talk to our brands all the time and they're like, what about tracking sales? And it's like, I say like, okay, well like, when was the last time you bought something after clicking a link on Instagram? And 100% of the time they say, I've never done that. I'm like, okay, well like, have you ever been influenced by somebody? Have you ever bought something because you saw it on Instagram? 100% of the time they say yes. I said, okay, well like, that's the thing. This does work, but it's hard to track. So if we are being judged on our ability to track sales, but you're telling me, a millennial who is super plugged into the internet, that you've never clicked on a link and purchased something, then how can we expect everyone else to? You know, and like think about your own behavior, because this, you know, the specific can be universal. And I think you can look at your behavior and you can apply it to a lot of other people's to understand how this works. I was really rambling. I don't know how Tim's going to cut that together, but like, good luck. How do you determine your rate if you've never done a similar job and you're more concerned with money over experience over exposure? Is it bad to say you're willing to accept any form of compensation? Again, let me stress, there's this conversation about money that is really, really valuable, but it is not the only thing. And you know, again, I'll just use a personal example. I shot for Tom Brown for 2 years. I was charging $5,000 a day when I was shooting for Tom Brown. I never even mentioned money. I never even floated the idea that they should pay me, because the value was in the relationship, not in the money that they could or could not pay me. Now, I was fortunate because I had a full-time job. I didn't necessarily need the money, but in that instance, it didn't even cross my mind to ask for it, because what's the fucking point? I get to do this amazing thing and shoot with somebody who I respect, and I had some of my favorite days behind the camera shooting that stuff, so I got value from that. I got access to a show that most editors can't get into, and like I was standing next to Tom as he was sending looks out the elevator at the Dia in Chelsea, and like those things for me were so much more valuable than money that it wasn't even worth the conversation, even if they would have been willing to pay me, which I'm assuming they wouldn't have been. So it is 100% okay to do things for free if you want to, but make sure that you're passionate about it and you care about it, or make sure that you're getting something from the deal, right? It might be that they send you some product. It might be that they repost your photo. It might be they give you a discount in the store, whatever it might be, but like, there are 33,000 influencers on Fohr, and a lot of these people are talking about brands all the time now. And I do think you have to do, especially if you're up and coming, you have to do a little bit more to get noticed. Again, let's use the Stetson example. I've posted 4 or 5 photos on my Instagram about them. I've probably posted about them 30 times on my Insta story in the last month. And they've been like responding with like hearts in my DM and stuff. And they finally were like, hey, we want to do this. And then like, you know, maybe in a couple months I keep wearing it. Maybe they send me a hat. Maybe, you know, it's like you don't know where these relationships will go, you know, and how many jobs did I get because I shot for Tom Brown or Oscar De La Renta, 2 brands that I didn't charge. And again, those are crazy examples, and I understand that most people won't have the opportunity to do that, but you can be strategic about these things, and especially if you're on the up and up and you're growing and you're at 5 or 10 or 20,000 followers, and this amazing brand reaches out and they want to work with you, and then you come back and you're like, yeah, what's your budget? It's kind of like, well, fuck you, you know? Like, my budget is that I'm Louis Vuitton and you have 10,000 followers, and like, there's a power balance, and the best negotiator in the world can't bridge a gap that big in the power balance. So I think you should think about what value you can get out of that relationship and get that. And some relationships, the only value you can get out of it is money. And that's fine. Then ask for the money. But there are other relationships where there is more value to be unlocked in opportunity or exposure or product or, you know, validation in the field. And those things are overlooked far too often. Lastly, is there such thing as overengagement? Yes and no. If you just have, you know, you look at beauty bloggers, a lot of the vloggers have insane engagement, which is very cool to see, and is authentic and organic and amazing. Where we're gonna just like make this show about me, which is perfect. It really, I mean, it is anyway, right? Where I struggle is when somebody's engagement is 70% influencers, other influencers. You're part of comment pods, or you're just like, you're being supportive of each other, which I totally dig. And I dig people like being supportive and being like, hey girl, you look amazing. I love this top, you know? And again, I'm in this world. I understand it. I know what you guys are doing. I think that a normal consumer or even a brand knows it, sees it, or notices it less. But I can tell you internally, if we see an influencer and their comments are over 50% from other influencers, we are much less likely to work with that person because it's bullshit. It's your friends supporting you, which is not, again, what that shows to me is that I'm not having a conversation with my followers, and I need more comments, and my friends are nice enough to support me. You know, I don't know that I would pay for that. I don't know that I'd find that super valuable. I would almost rather, at this point, for me, and again, this is just me, I would almost rather see less comments, but have them be real, and have them be from real consumers and customers and followers than your 50 influencer friends who you guys all post on each other's account and throw hearts and like, you know, fucking prayer hands at each other all day. Like, that's not engagement, you know? And not every post needs engagement, you know? I mean, if you ask, like, think about engagement, think about comments. Why would someone comment on your photo? Because, you know, it's something that they find really interesting, because you asked a question, because they have a question, because it is some sort of milestone, they want to congratulate you, something like that. Like, if you're posting 60 times a month, like, I don't know, do all those posts need comments? I think that what's interesting that we see is, you know, we're working on tools, I'm working on it as a stretch. We're thinking about a way to detect fake engagement. And one big thing that I find very interesting is that most influencers have a big swing in the amount of engagement they have, you know? Let's say, I think I was looking at Michelle Take Aim's account, and like on the low end, she's getting like, is it maybe 10,000 likes? And on the high end, maybe on the low end, she's getting like 8,000, the high end like 20,000. There's huge swings. And then you look at people who are maybe buying engagement and followers, and their engagement's like this. It's the fucking same every single time. That's not normal, you know? There should be swings. There should be posts that there's not a lot of engagement. There should be posts that there's a lot of engagement. And I think that's natural. And I don't think you have to hyper optimize every single thing to get comments. And once again, maybe back off on your influencer friends commenting on your posts, because we're building tools that are going to show what percentage of your comments are from other influencers. And we're going to show that stuff to brands. And if that number is 90% for you, you might want to check if you actually have the ability to influence people. And maybe you're just not, again, maybe you're not having a conversation with your audience. Maybe you're just talking at them. Maybe you need to pull them in, ask them questions, teach them something about yourself. So there is such a thing as over-engagement if it's the wrong kind. And that's it. You know, I feel like, I don't know, it's Monday. I'm feeling a little salty today. So hopefully this was all helpful. Going Thanksgiving break. We've got another guest next week who is just absolutely straight fire. She gave a presentation that really impacted me and is something that I've talked about to a lot of brands and a lot of influencers. I'm really excited for her to show that to y'all and for us to have a conversation next week. She's also just an amazing person. So stay tuned. And again, if you haven't watched the Jamie episode, click and watch it now. That's all. Goodbye.